What does it really take to thrive in a world where change never stops? In a time when AI and technology are rewriting the rules of work, our biggest advantage might not be digital, but human. Today, we're exploring what it means to develop a future-ready mindset, one built on curiosity, courage, and collaboration. My guest is Allister Frost. He's a former Microsoft leader, award-winning speaker, and the author of Ready Already. Allister's work helps people turn uncertainty into opportunity by activating what he calls the 3 human superpowers that technology can't replicate. Now, if you've ever felt like you're running to keep up with change, this episode is definitely for you. It's going to shift you from reactive to ready and help you build the confidence to thrive in whatever the future brings. So welcome to the Working Well podcast. We're the show that explores the intersection of leadership, business strategy, and sustainable human performance. I'm your host, Tim Borys. Let's dive in. Allister, welcome to the Working Well podcast. Great to have you here. It's been a while since we chatted. I'm looking forward to diving into this conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I love talking about the future and obsolescence and all of these problems that could be facing us if we're not ready to keep up.
Excellent. Well, you've built a bit of a reputation for helping leaders and teams not just survive change, but to, I guess, really embrace it. Now, what sparked your passion for studying how humans adapt to change?
I think it's been something that's grown through my career. I was just aware. I started in a very traditional business, manufacturing. Then I went to Microsoft in the tech sector, and the differences between those two worlds were so stark. It really sowed a seed in my mind about, are we going to be able to keep up? How is the rest of the world going to be able to move at this pace? Because I had that reference point of, my old world in the manufacturing world where things move very slowly. And so I've always had this worry that there might be this tsunami of obsolescence approaching us where the world just moves so quickly that people with a bit of experience, sometimes I refer to them as middle-aged, that's a bit unfair, but people who've got a few years of experience behind them, they really start to struggle to make sense of how the world is working because technology accelerates, people accelerate, everything gets faster. And so for the last few years, I've absolutely been committed 100% to helping leaders and teams to think about this stuff and figure out a strategy that works for them.
I love that, and it's so needed right now. All the leaders I talk with, the teams, everyone is, I wouldn't say everyone, the majority of people are crumpling under the change, and there are some that are thriving. We can talk a bit about what might be creating that separation or that difference. But with AI and, I would say hybrid work, but we've got a lot of return to office mandates happening these days. But with the changes going on and across all different industries, what do you define as being future ready?
Well, future ready, I came up with these 3 words, future ready mindset, and slammed them together many years ago as a way of trying to frame a thought process that is basically about people being more proactive with thinking about and planning for the inevitable changes and challenges that are on the horizon. So future ready, none of us can be totally future ready because this thing just moves too quickly. There's no such thing as future proofed either, because we know that we don't know what the future is. So what are you future proofing against? You can do things that will make it easier to keep up, but you really can't ever be future proofed. So future ready is just this thing where I try to get people to think beyond the immediate. A lot of people are today ready at best, right? They get through the day, go home exhausted, and then come and try again the next day, and carve out a bit more time to think about what's your personal direction of travel. This isn't about businesses and strategy. It's about you as a person. What is it that you want to master in the near future? What might be helpful to do today so that your near future will be a little bit easier? I mean, that's in the very simplest level. It's doing something today that will make tomorrow a bit easier, but then obviously stretching that out a few years by trying to anticipate the inevitable changes and challenges that are ahead of you.
I like how you said some people are today ready. I would also say there are a bunch of people out there that are 2010 ready, or
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
1990 ready.
Don't get me wrong. Today ready is an incredible achievement. If anyone's listening, watching, thinking, am I today ready? If you're getting through the day and you're on top of stuff and you know what's going on, you're doing incredibly well. But already, so don't knock yourself for that. But there's this extra little level where you become future ready. And all it is it's about having space and time in your life to think beyond the immediate, to go outside of your organization, see what others are doing, and then to focus on a few things that you truly believe will help you and your colleagues in the near future.
Mm. Now, talking about future ready, your book is called Ready Already. So talk to me about the title and where that came from.
Yeah, it is about ready already. So I want people to be ready already for whatever the future may bring. That's the simple explanation of why I came up with that phrase. And the book is a really simple framework for not just, firstly, it helps you to sort of think about change and your relationship with change. I think that's super important for a lot of people. We see ourselves often as victims, often as change is something that happens to us. We often resign ourselves to, well, it is what it is and I'll have to make the do with it. And actually that's sometimes the start of the problems for people, because we kind of accept that change happens to us rather than seeing the bigger picture and thinking, hang on a minute, if somebody's creating change on me, I can create change on me too. And therefore I could be the creator of change. And that's where you sort of try to become ready already, because you're looking a little bit further ahead than your colleagues, and you're seeing things and you're having ideas, and you've got the courage to bring those ideas back into the organization and to share them and to try to work with your colleagues to make them better. And that's the framework that the book gives you, a really simple way of getting out of your rut, stretching your comfort zone, and seeing what it can bring to you. And the wonderful thing is I think the results are different for every single person, because it's a very personal quest that you need to go on.
I agree completely. Yeah, everyone's different. We all bring our different background and thought processes and ways of interacting with the world to our circumstances.
But I think that's a problem with a lot of change management programs, Tim. They're kind of one size fits all. They've got loads of stakeholders. Everybody's in for the Gantt charts and stuff like that. And we talk about change in many workplaces. There's a big thing. There's a big change. There's a new Q3, 4, whatever thing going on. And actually, the most important change that most of us need to be pursuing is very small. It's little improvements. It's getting to a Friday afternoon and thinking, what have I learned this week? What do I know now that I didn't know the week before? How am I slightly more ready for the week ahead than I would otherwise have been? And that's where the success really comes from. When lots of people in an organization approach work that way, then effectively the big change that the organization needs comes through hundreds, thousands of little changes that people are making just day in, day out, because that's the way they view their job.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with, or not this particular one, but a similar conversation with a number of different change management people and executives, in the sense that many people think change is a tactical process, and they keep forgetting that there's a human element. There's a big human element to the change, and you can map out all the plans that you want, but if you're not dealing with the raw emotions and mindset of the change, it's always going to backfire. And
people have to go with you. Yeah, they have to.
Thankfully, there's more recognition around that these days, but I still see leaders, especially talking about technology implementation and changes, putting these new AI models out and all these things changing. And it's, but have you talked to the people about how they're feeling about this change, how it impacts them, what emotions they're coming up with?
There will always be those big sort of transformative change things in any organization, large or small. So we're going to have to, those will still happen, and they'll often be led by the leaders, because that's kind of their job to do. But I think there's quite a nice thing about my philosophy on life and the future ready mindset that I try to encourage people to have. And it kind of takes leaders a little bit off the hook for change, because we go through life going up the ranks, and therefore we get more important and we have more authority. And then people sort of turn to us and expect us to have the answers. And of course, we're no better at predicting the future than anyone else. We're arguably we're worse because we're in a lofty position and we're detached from reality. So I think there's a wonderful thing is that it's very democratic good change. It can, when we accept that it can come from anywhere, that anyone is capable of having a useful idea, anyone is capable of seeing something when they're outside or they go on holiday or they read a book or they hear a podcast, whatever it is. Anyone can have that moment of realization, and anyone can have an idea and bring it back into the organization and try to make it a useful thing for their colleagues. That's not the preserve of leaders. That if you just leave it to the leaders, guess what? You'll move at the speed of the organization, which probably isn't fast enough. And your personal career, your life is more important than the organization, is my view. And therefore, it's on you to create the future that you deserve. And it's surprisingly easy to have more agency over an organization when you accept that responsibility and step up, because many of your colleagues may not be doing it, and they'll be glad you're doing it. And the leaders above you will be delighted that there's somebody showing some initiative and trying to make things better.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm a huge proponent of individual responsibility and growth mindset. And so on that topic, many people are probably familiar with Carol Dweck's growth mindset, amazing work that she's done in that area. Now you talk about the future ready mindset as being distinct in certain aspects. Can you dive into that a bit more about what the differences are and why they matter for leaders?
Yeah, Carol Dweck's growth mindset books, it's not even 20 years ago that was published. And it's extraordinary, really, that because it's so obvious. It's not obvious. It's brilliant work. It's brilliant thinking. But you know, it's just to imagine a world where we didn't think growth mindset existed. But that was the truth when I went to school, and many other people as well. Yeah, exactly. It was a fixed mindset. It's like, well, you're from this background, you've grown up in this part of the world. There's only so far you can go, and you're kind of limited by that. And you're going to learn while you can learn, and then you'll get to a plateau, and that's it. Growth mindset, of course, blows that up, and quite rightly says, no, humans, if they apply themselves and persevere, they can grow and get better at stuff. Brilliant work from Carol Dweck. But the common problem with that growth mindset thing is it's kind of presented as, well, you can do this, and then organizations and all the people within them sort of look back at you and say, oh, great, I can do that, but I'm really busy. I've got stuff to do. I haven't got time to grow. I have not time to think about stuff and to learn. You know, how's that going to happen? So what I try to do is layer on top of the principles of growth mindset, and I sometimes rather grandly refer to future ready mindset as growth mindset plus, this thing where you've got a reason to do it. You want to do it because it's for you. So you've got this thing that I call a personal mission. It's more than purpose. It's a very unique thing of why you do the work you do in the service of others. So you really recognize the value that you bring to the world, to other human beings. It might be to animals or the ocean or something, depends on your work, but it's the impact that you have in the service of others. So that gives you the fuel to want to keep up, because I profoundly believe that if you think life is busy and hectic and crazy now, it will be more busy, crazy and hectic in the future, because that's the pathway we're on. But it also then gives you this super simple 5-step framework to have a go, to pick something out, to learn about it, and to apply, I call them 3 human superpowers, that things that tech can't do, that we need good old-fashioned human beings to do, and a reason to, go after that. So that's the difference. I think, without being unfair to Carol, if growth mindset worked, we'd all be, I don't know, astronauts or brain surgeons or something by now, wouldn't we? And we're not. We're all still struggling, and we're all, busy and struggling to keep up. So that's the difference. I'm trying to give people a very simple reason to do this thing in the first place.
Yeah, and I'd say we know growth mindset works, absolutely. There's often just a struggle with how people implement it in unique ways into their life on a day-to-day basis. And so you mentioned a couple things. One was the model for continuous improvement, and then also the 3 things that machines can't do that we can.
Yeah.
What's the best place to start on that? Because I want to hear about both. But
okay, so I can talk about the 3. Let me talk about the 3 superpowers really quickly.
Okay.
it's a rather grand label to give them, isn't it? A superpower. But I think they are remarkable things that we don't fully understand. And we certainly can't do as well with technology as we can, human to human and so on. So I call them in my model open, surprise, and tell. And open is about opening your mind with raw curiosity so that you can allow space for new possibilities, maybe previously non-existent possibilities, to come into focus. And this is just about being really naively curious about our work. And I often tell people the simplest way to do this is to imagine you're 5 years old again and you have absolute permission to ask why. Like little kids do all the time. They ask, why? And if you go into your workplace and you look at what you do and you start questioning things like a child would, like you've seen them for the first time, like you might have done in the first day in the job, but by the week 2, you stopped asking questions because you didn't want to look silly. That's the trouble with being a grown-up, is we stop asking why. So getting back to that curiosity and simple things like, there's loads of examples in the book of asking why in a really simple way. And that can unlock new possibilities, because the minute you question the sacred cow, why are these products all more expensive than that product? The sort of thing somebody might, ask naively, you open the possibilities. Actually, they don't have to be more expensive than those products, do they? Or do they? And why the open step doesn't give you answers. That's the key thing. It just creates space in your mind for something else to maybe exist. Sometimes when I do this with workshops and on stage, I'll get volunteers up and we'll talk about something simple like a bicycle. And they'll say, if a child looked at a bicycle for the first time, they might say, why has it got wheels? Why has it got 2 wheels? Why has it got a saddle? Why is it heavy? Why is it red? I don't know, simple things like that. But if you manufactured bicycles, you probably never stopped to think, why has it got 2 wheels? And of course, we know why, because we're grown-ups. We wouldn't ask that question. But the minute you ask that, it's why has it got 2 wheels? You start to think, well, maybe it could have no wheels, 100 wheels. Maybe it could have tracks. I don't know. You flip open your mind and see new possibilities. And AI cannot do that. You can't write a prompt that will do that human curiosity thing. We don't know how it works biologically in our own brains. So it's a really hard thing for a large language model, which is built on pre-existing structures, to do. So that's open. I'll go quicker on the next 2, because surprise then is taking that space that you've made with open and allowing yourselves to have bolder, more creative, non-obvious ideas than you ever dreamt possible, without any fear of them being judged. We censor our ideas far too quickly. And AI will give you lots of ideas. Computers can generate random stuff brilliantly, but it doesn't go through the filter of our human minds. So surprise is about surprising yourself with the enormity of your imagination and allowing that to happen and to sit. So you have some ideas, because then you've got your third superpower, which I call tell, and that's about telling a few of the right people at the right time in the right place what you've been doing. So what you were thinking about, some of the open space that you created in your mind with curiosity, some of the mad ideas that you had, but then working with them in an additive way, collaborative way, to make those ideas better. So you take the responsibility for having the good idea off of your own shoulders and you accept it as a collaborative act. When we do that, and importantly, our colleagues join us in that venture and they don't shoot our ideas down in flames, which is, as we all know, the default setting in most organisations. We say no because, no, but. I try to get people to say yes and just say yes and that might work if, and yes and we should talk to such and such, and yes and here's a way we could make that even cheaper. That's when you suddenly get people getting excited about a big idea. A big idea will always, through any interrogation, get smaller. It will get more modest and it will become feasible and realistic. But you've got to start big. And far too often, in a world that's moving very quickly and competitors are appearing from all sides of the world, we don't allow ourselves to go big first, because we automatically constrain our ideas down to what we think the boss will agree with. And that's not good enough in a world where anything is possible. So those are the 3 superpowers. And I write extensively about them in the book, of course, but they're really simple to do. They are cognitive tricks that we need to play on our brain, but they're tapping into things that are inherently human and magical that we don't fully understand. And when we bring them back into the workplace, incredible things can happen.
I love that. Yeah. And it's, as we live in an increasingly tech-centered world, I feel there's so much importance around tapping into how we are uniquely human and doing more of that. So the machines can do what they do best and we can do what we do best.
Yeah, and using, I'm a huge fan of using AI and whatever technology you have. If it helps you get out of helps you have an idea, brilliant. But don't take that stuff at face value, which is what I see so many people doing. They get an answer, it's like, oh, that's good enough. It's just fluent bullshit, a lot of it. It's wonderful, and it's a trick that the tech companies are playing on us to make us think, oh, it is human, it understands me. It doesn't. It's very clever. But it's not going to always give you the right answer. It's not always acting in your best interest. So bring your humanity, overlay it on that stuff. And then actually you'll see the most powerful ideas that your competitors won't see. Because if we all sort of relegate our working day to typing a prompt, getting an answer, copying it and pasting it into a PowerPoint presentation or whatever, or even asking the machine to copy and paste it, what are we here for? No, we're here because we understand what other humans need and want, and that's what we've got to do.
Yeah. With this change, why do you think so many people struggle, even though they know rationally they know change is inevitable? But why do people struggle so much?
Well, I think the greatest myth about change is that people don't like change. A lot of leaders will pipe that out. They say, "Oh, people don't like change. Change is hard. Therefore, we've got to have a 3-line whip that tells everybody they have to do it, and we're going to have to send them all on a training thing and buy them coffees." And no, people love change, actually. People, if you stop and think, imagine a world with no change, where work was the same forevermore. That would be so dull. So actually, change is a good thing. But the thing that humans struggle with is the fear of loss that accompanies change. It's the fact that when something different comes along, I may lose something. What may you lose? You might lose your status because the thing that you were good at is no longer needed. You may lose your experience. You may lose your friendship group because you'll be moved to a different bit of the business. Who knows? You may lose, your comfort zone, the familiarity. It's letting go of that thing. And it's the fear of losing the familiar that we've worked really hard to build up that makes us anxious about the next change thing. But of course, we all know that as human beings, we're brilliant at change, aren't we? That's literally why we're running the planet, not some other animal. We're very good at change. We're very agile, very adaptable, and we can cope with almost anything that's thrown at us. So we can do change, and actually a world with change is quite fun, can be, not always, but it can generally be a good thing. But we have to confront what we stand to lose. And what you need to realize is that what you're worried about losing, your experience, your ability to do things in a certain way and all those things, you're probably going to lose those anyway because the world is moving so quickly. So you might as well make the change. And I always urge people to take the jump, have a go. The worst case is it doesn't work out and you learn something, but you're a better person for it. So yeah, there are a lot of people who resist change, and it's incorrectly interpreted as they don't like change. They're resisting change because they're fearful of what they stand to lose. Well, as leaders, if we address that, then we can have a much more open conversation about how to get people on board with creating their own change.
Well, yeah, you nailed it. A huge part of change management is that the communication of change and having the discussion about what's this impact going to be? What are the pros? What are the cons? How do we all manage through it? You mentioned earlier your time at Microsoft. Obviously, you saw a lot of change there, and the pace was quite rapid, I would imagine, compared to even the average company these days. What do you feel separates organizations that talk about transformation from those that actually implement it and live it?
I don't think it's necessarily a sort of a Microsoft thing, or even some sectors move very quickly, and actually they get dragged along by change as much as creating the change themselves from it. So I think the pace of change that we're seeing in our world, because it is accelerating everywhere, just because of the widespread availability of increasingly powerful computing and large language models and all the stuff we've been talking about already, it's coming to bear on all of us. So the Microsoft and the contrast between Microsoft and many of the organizations that I've worked with subsequently is quite stark, because there is just an expectation within the tech sector particularly that things aren't going to stay the way they are, that there'll be a new version, there'll be an update, things won't work, but we'll figure it out. And a lot of businesses have not really had to confront that just yet. It's increasingly understood by leaders in all sectors, but that's certainly a good place to earn your stripes, if you like, if you want to really get good at change, or really bad at change. Let's be honest, Microsoft wasn't always the best when I was there. Then the tech sector and those fast-moving sectors can be really useful for that. But if you look at your sector and you approach it with an appetite for change, I've yet to find anywhere where it was not possible to go faster than we thought was possible when we try.
I read a stat the other day, or heard a stat, and obviously it's future, it's still a guess, but they were saying that it was comparing the change at the start of the Industrial Revolution and compared to the pace of change now. And they were saying that in the first 100 years of the Industrial Revolution, we've experienced that amount of change in the last 10 years, I think it was. And then they were talking about job changes and the impact of AI and technology and the changing needs of the workforce, that by 2030, so in the next 5 years, 80% of jobs will be affected in significant ways that will require new training, that the average job, the average skills are going to turn over. They have a shelf life of about 18 months now, the technical skills. What are your thoughts on that, and how people use those uniquely human superpowers to keep moving forward, even despite that massively increased pace of change?
Yeah, I think this is what got me into, really focusing on change and helping people to cope with it, is this reality that and I don't know where these people get these 80% numbers from, they pluck them out of the air, but there has to be some truth in it. We're already seeing dramatic changes, even in the sort of few months, let's be honest, that we've had AI in widespread availability and accessible for all of us to use. So there's no question there will be dramatic changes to the job definitions and the levels and the nature of jobs. We are probably going to be seeing smaller organizations, more disruptive organizations, but we're also going to be seeing a lot of failures as well through that that transition. I'm always optimistic. Every revolution that mankind has gone through has generated more work than it has taken away. And I don't think AI alone, as one of those really disruptive things that's going on at the moment, is going to make us all completely useless. My great fear at the moment is that many organizations are seeing this as an opportunity for efficiency, as a way of taking out basic lower level jobs, of streamlining operations, because we don't need people to write letters or do customer service and things like that, because we think we can automate that thing. My great fear with that, of course, is that we need those people doing. Well, the economy of our world needs people to be employed, because otherwise what else are we going to do? But more importantly, organizations in the future need people who have experience of working their way through an organization. And if we don't give those people a chance, in a few years' time, I don't know where you're going to get your middle managers from. I don't know where you get your top managers from, because we'll have taken those opportunities away from people. So I think it's true. I think we are going to see extraordinary change. I think most people are massively overcorrecting for it at the moment. And really what we should be doing is encouraging people to learn at their own pace with the new technologies, giving them access to it, but trying to get them to use it in a meaningful way to make the business better. That will probably generate far more for the bottom line after a few months' time than it would simply taking the cost out of the top line. And that's what I try to talk to people about as well, to get them to think about it in the longer term rather than just, as a quick fix I've got here.
Yeah, and with this change, I guess if you put your touch your crystal ball and try and envision the future, we see lots of lists about what skills are going to be most in demand and most useful. What's your take on that? And say in the next 5 to 10 years, using the superpowers, what are some of the practical skills on a day-to-day basis that you see being most prominent?
There are wonderful automation opportunities. I mean, it is exquisite how you can use technology, new technology all the time to get started with an email, to sort of have ideas to support me along the way. And then I always remember one of the sectors that was always at the top of the list for, we won't need these people anymore, was accountants, bookkeepers and so on, because it is a relatively repetitive task. But that sort of statement utterly ignores the humanity that goes on in a good bookkeeper's mind, in a good accountant's mind, understanding the business, trying to do the right things and point businesses in the right direction. It's not just about understanding, regulations and rigidly applying rules. There's a lot of value in there. So I think, and I work with a big bookkeepers association, gave a talk to them recently. And there are a lot of people who are really fearful. They're looking at it thinking, this is crazy. There's a job that I used to, spend 2 days a week doing, and this thing just does it just like that. But the opportunity is those people, that knowledge, that wisdom they have, they can just apply their freed up time to thinking more creatively about what else they could do that would really add value to their client's business, that would really transform their understanding of accounting, that would actually automate even more of their work so they spend less time on the repetitive tasks and more time thinking, communicating, working with people to see the opportunities that are just within reach if we only open our eyes to them. That's my thesis on this, is we have to be optimistic, but it's on us as individuals to seize that opportunity. Otherwise, we'll just one day wake up and find ourselves obsolete because we didn't move with the times.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm a passionate optimist. While there are always growing pains and bumps and challenges along the road, over the long term, change is beneficial. We learn, grow, develop, and have new opportunities to explore things that can help us thrive. And I'm such a proponent of that. And I see some companies and leaders understanding that more now and really working with their people to cultivate the future-ready mindset. Growth mindset, whatever your term is for it.
Yeah. I think that change is it can be a bad thing. There can be change that you cannot adapt to because for whatever reason it's beyond your reach. But I think change beyond that is only ever harmful if you see it as a threat, if you see it as something you've got to fight against, there's something that's repressing you, pushing you back, so if you adopt a victimhood relationship with change, then it's really tough, and it's going to be really, really tough in the future. If, however, you look at it and say, change is opportunity. If I have a go, I'll probably be okay. I'll get on fine. And I need to keep learning. Let's take this growth mindset. Let's channel it into something meaningful and into a future-ready mindset. And let's just see what we can learn and how long we can stay on this train. Because that's always been my fear, is that there could be a point of obsolescence for many people in the workforce at a far younger age than our grandparents or even our parents, because the world moves so fast. So keeping up becomes harder. And whilst technology races forwards, our ability to evolve as human beings remains stubbornly slow. We can learn, we can grow, but we're still the same, physical object that we've always been, and we don't evolve very quickly. So, but we can think, and that's our great power. We can think, and then we can embrace change. And when we see it as opportunity, I think it opens up a whole host of excitement for a lot of people. And it's a refreshing change to see, when those light bulbs go off above their heads.
Yeah. And from your personal standpoint, how do you balance that curiosity and the focus to work on new things and harness or take advantage of these opportunities?
Well, yeah, I'm constantly looking. I genuinely, the process that's called the ready already growth cycle in the book, and some people refer to it as the Frost cycle because the initial letters do spell my surname through a huge fantasy exercise. But no, it's nice. It just makes it easy to remember for people. But believe in that process, and I use it myself. If I'm stuck, I will sort of go back to first principles and say, okay, so what is most important? That the F in Frost stands for follows. What should I follow? What's the one thing above all others that speaks to me most loudly that I really need to understand or know a little bit better in the very near future? And then I'll carve out some time to go and learn about that thing and to have some ideas to do the open, to do surprise, to do tell, bounce it around, see what comes out of that. And that's what keeps me fresh. That's what sort of keeps me excited about my job, because I work largely alone as a motivational speaker traveling around the world. If I just do that and keep doing that, I'm going to get stale very, very quickly, and I cannot allow that to happen. So that's why, I use these techniques for myself, and it's served me extremely well for the last few years.
Wonderful. And you mentioned about the displacement of jobs in the short term, and that's happening at all ages. There are a lot of people approaching retirement that are probably thinking, might just retire early because I don't know if they can do that. But on the other end of that spectrum, I've got a daughter that just entered university in September, and a lot of kids, I've been listening to some of the conversation, and they're like, I don't know what I want to do. And we never know what we want to do at that age, but particularly now, in the past, there were career progressions. It's like, I'm going into this, and that there's a stable career trajectory there. Now, you might spend 4 years in university, and then you might not have that career might no longer be there.
It's true. Yeah. It's even in my lifetime, I think my first job at Kimberly-Clark, I felt I had a career. I was going to be a career marketeer. That's what it was. And I got to Microsoft, and I think I had a series of jobs as a marketing person. And since then, I've had a series of gigs where I've done different things. And so I've sort of seen that in my lifetime. That's not really a formula that will work for somebody entering the workforce now. I genuinely believe that the mindset elements that I've got are relevant no matter how old you are, where you are in your career. I'm speaking next week to a group of graduates, so they're at their graduation event, because and being open-minded, having the courage to have big ideas, learning how to communicate with your colleagues in a way that gains their attention and allows you to make your ideas better is utterly relevant to them, just as it is for someone at the other end of their career. And you mentioned sort of I might retire early. There's a story in the book. It's one of my favorite things that happened as a speaker. I did a talk, and in the morning there was a whole load of business changes, and it was all about all the things that the business is going to change. That was sort of the management was doing its download on the employees. And then I did my talk after lunch, and after I did it, a guy came up to me and he said, I want to just say thank you, because that's really helped me. He said, I'm 6 months away from retirement. And honestly, after this morning, there's so much change. There's so much new stuff to learn. I was planning to go to HR and see if I could bring the date forward, because I'm too old for all of this. I can't learn new things. What's the point? But listening to you, it made me reflect and think about, it's my life, and I've still got lots of years ahead of me. I've still got lots of ideas, and I've kind of lost that desire to contribute, to have ideas. And he said, I will retire in 6 months. And he did. I stayed in touch with him. When I leave, I've got my personal mission for the next 6 months. When I leave, I want all of my colleagues here to be really sad to see me go, and to be disappointed that I'm not going to be around anymore. Because I know if I don't, they'll just be glad that old grumpy guy has finally left the building, and I don't want that. And I thought that was a lovely reflection A simple thing. And we're all, if we're honest, we're all never more than 6 months away from oblivion because, we can lose our jobs or things can change. Obviously, when you've got retirement just ahead of you, it comes into focus. But I think that's a really good way to think about life, whatever stage you're at, is in 6 months' time, I want my colleagues to be, so pleased to have me around, not sort of wishing that there was somebody who was a bit more with it. And I love that story. So, if that helps somebody who's listening in, thinking about this, wherever you're at in your life, seize it. So it's your chance, and you've got ideas, and don't let change feel like this thing you can't deal with. You absolutely can.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect way to wrap things up, because I think we are in control of our own destiny. We decide how we view the world. We decide the actions we take, and we can choose to follow the model and set ourselves up for success, or pretend it doesn't exist and then complain about it when something happens that we don't like.
Yeah, nice summary. I agree.
Where can people go to find out about you, your work, connect with you?
Well, we've been talking about Ready Already, so they can go and find out about the process I've been describing, the Frost process, at readyalready.me. So that's Ready Already, or one word, of course, .me for me. And that will give you some ideas, and you can find out about the book and also how I can help with talks or whatever else that it is that they need.
All right. I will make sure those go in the show notes for everyone, and people have the links ready for them.
Great stuff.
Allister,
Thanks
it's
so much
been
for having
awesome
me.
to chat, and I look forward to catching up again soon and seeing how the rest of the next year or two go for you, because we're 18 months is like a cycle, right? So we've probably reinvented in that time anyway.
Well, I'm sure you've got a bright future ahead of you, and I wish you and all of your followers every success.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Tim.
That wraps up another episode of the Working Well podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Now, which guests or topics would you like to see featured on the show? Message me through LinkedIn or on the contact page of timborys.com with your ideas. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Borys with Fresh Wellness Group, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.